Bermuda is recovering after a close call with Hurricane Teddy. Bermuda is recovering after a close call with Hurricane Teddy. The recent killing of 3 young boys reignites racial tensions in Guyana. Just moments ahead, we'll be speaking with Guyana's new president, Mohamed Irfan Ali, about the political unrest in the country. Barbados is breaking free from the Queen, moving to become a republic and leave its colonial past behind. As COVID-19 cases spike, Jamaica announces the country will delay its annual carnival celebration. A Caribbean Economic Forum. Leaders from around the region are coming together for a forum to discuss adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy. And in tonight's Caribbean Moments by Caribbean Journal, the latest Caribbean destination allowing international visitors to vacation for a lot longer while you work.
This is the Caribbean Times News with Alicia Davis.
Thank you for being with us. I'm Alicia Davis in New York. And we begin with our headline story. Bermuda is recovering after a close call with Hurricane Teddy. It was the British Overseas Territory's second storm within just a week, with windstorms over 90 miles per hour. The government had shut down the island's air and seaports, schools, and government offices, all in preparation for the storm. Bermuda was recently slammed by Hurricane Paulette, leaving parts of the island without electricity and damaging property. Hurricane Teddy is the second Atlantic storm to reach major hurricane status so far this season. And Barbados is breaking away from the Queen. At the reopening of Parliament, the government announcing plans to remove Britain's Queen Elizabeth as the nation's head of state. The island will join Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, and Dominica as the CARICOM countries where the head of state is the elected president. Well, disappointing news for carnival goers in Jamaica as COVID-19 cases spike. Jamaica's tourism minister, Edmund Bartlett, is announcing plans that the country will forego hosting their annual carnival celebration until April 2021. Minister Bartlett acknowledged the impact that the delay will have on the country's economy, but emphasized the need to protect Jamaicans and visitors from the deadly coronavirus. The minister also noted that all tickets and costumes purchased in 2020 will be honored for the 2021 staging. Now, coming up after the break, my interview with Guyana's new president, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. So don't go anywhere. The Caribbean Times News will be right back.
Let us reimagine how we rebuild stronger, fitter, healthier economies and societies at a September Caribbean Economic Forum, where we chat about adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy with a panel of international economists with Caribbean roots and our experiences. Bahamian Dr. Peter Blair, assistant professor at Harvard University. Vincentian Dr. Wendell Samuel of the IMF. From Guyana, Dr.
Bermuda is recovering after a close call with Hurricane Teddy. The recent killing of 3 young boys reignites racial tensions in Guyana. Just moments ahead, we'll be speaking with Guyana's new president, Mohamed Irfan Ali, about the political unrest in the country. Barbados is breaking free from the Queen, moving to become a republic and leave its colonial past behind. As COVID-19 cases spike, Jamaica announces the country will delay its annual carnival celebration. A Caribbean Economic Forum. Leaders from around the region are coming together for a forum to discuss adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy. And in tonight's Caribbean Moments by Caribbean Journal, the latest Caribbean destination allowing international visitors to vacation for a lot longer while you work.
This is the Caribbean Times News with Alicia Davis.
Thank you for being with us. I'm Alicia Davis in New York. And we begin with our headline story. Bermuda is recovering after a close call with Hurricane Teddy. It was the British Overseas Territory's second storm within just a week, with windstorms over 90 miles per hour. The government had shut down the island's air and seaports, schools, and government offices, all in preparation for the storm. Bermuda was recently slammed by Hurricane Paulette, leaving parts of the island without electricity and damaging property. Hurricane Teddy is the second Atlantic storm to reach major hurricane status so far this season. And Barbados is breaking away from the Queen. At the reopening of Parliament, the government announcing plans to remove Britain's Queen Elizabeth as the nation's head of state. The island will join Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, and Dominica as the CARICOM countries where the head of state is the elected president. Well, disappointing news for carnival goers in Jamaica as COVID-19 cases spike. Jamaica's tourism minister, Edmund Bartlett, is announcing plans that the country will forego hosting their annual carnival celebration until April 2021. Minister Bartlett acknowledged the impact that the delay will have on the country's economy, but emphasized the need to protect Jamaicans and visitors from the deadly coronavirus. The minister also noted that all tickets and costumes purchased in 2020 will be honored for the 2021 staging. Now, coming up after the break, my interview with Guyana's new president, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. So don't go anywhere. The Caribbean Times News will be right back.
Let us reimagine how we rebuild stronger, fitter, healthier economies and societies at a September Caribbean Economic Forum, where we chat about adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy with a panel of international economists with Caribbean roots and our experiences. Bahamian Dr. Peter Blair, Assistant Professor at Harvard University. Vincentian Dr. Wendell Samuel of the IMF. From Guyana, Dr. Dylan Naleen, Deputy Director of Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. And Dr. Eric Strobel, Professor in Environmental and Climate Economics, University of Bern, Switzerland, and who's worked across the Caribbean. Join the conversation about rebuilding our nation's economies on Tuesday, September 22nd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Jamaica. Tune into this station or log on online.
Since the coronavirus, global travel seems risky, but with Promo Caribbean, you don't have to worry. Our COVID-19 alerts feature, coupled with our comprehensive travel guide featuring over 20 countries, contains all you need to keep updated and safe during the pandemic. Whether it's Belize, Barbados, Haiti, or Guyana, our travel guide has all you need from safe places to eat, transport options, pharmacies, embassies, hotels, and Airbnbs. Not feeling well? You could take the COVID self-assessment test on our app. If you happen to be in the Caribbean or are looking to travel during these uncertain times, then Promo Caribbean is going to be your best friend. Today more than ever, you need to stay informed and stay safe. With Promo Caribbean, you don't have to worry. We've got you. Download the app from the App Store or Play Store now.
And welcome back to the Caribbean Times News. Just weeks after Guyana emerged from a long dispute over election results that deeply divided the country, the nation now finds itself facing the worst racial unrest since the 1960s. Following the gruesome murder of two Afro-Guyanese boys, Isaiah and Joel Henry, and the apparent retaliation killing of an Indo-Guyanese teen, Harish Singh, well, leaders representing Afro-Guyanese immediately labeled the killings a hate crime, and they called on supporters to protest. Well, people took to the streets in the northeast Berbice region where the murders took place. They were blocking roads, burning trucks, and attacking Indo-Guyanese residents and businesses. Earlier today, I spoke with Guyana's new president, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, about the unrest, and here is what he had to say.
Indeed, we are coming out of a little bit of a difficult patch with the horrific incident in which 3 young boys were murdered, and we are working very hard, assiduously, to bring those criminals to justice. As you're aware, we have reached out to our regional partners and international partners to ensure that we have all the resources necessary, human and technical resources necessary to bring those criminals to justice.
Yes. And now the former president and your political opponent, David Granger, he has backed the protesters. So I want to know, how do you see what is happening in the country, and what are your plans to address those racial tensions?
Well, you know, in any situation like that, there's what you call political action. And you can be politically mature or you can be politically immature. Now, it is up to all those who examine the action of the former president and leader of the opposition to decide which one they were. But when you exploit a tense situation for political gains, it does nothing for the country. It does nothing for the people of the country. It does nothing for society. But again, as I said, these are challenges and circumstances that we have to deal with in a political environment and in life itself. But we have moved forward in assuring the Guyanese people that justice must be served and that we are going after these criminals. We are ensuring that we have every single tool available, and those that we need help in, we have reached out for those help, as I said initially. But as we move forward, we have to ensure that our society and our policies and programs demonstrate the outlook of the government.
And now we have seen people on both sides call for Britain and other CARICOM nations to help investigate these killings and to make sure that the investigation is impartial. I know you have called for that as well. Are you able to give us an update on that?
Yeah, well, as you're aware, we very early on, we asked that the RSS, the Regional Security System, be activated, and also the British government. We sought out help from both areas. I'm happy to report to you that we are making great progress. From CARICOM itself, we are hoping that we can have a team very shortly. We have finalized the terms of reference. We had to sign an MOU. We had that done. And also on the British side, we have gotten a very positive response.
And we will have much more of my interview with President Ali coming up right after the break. Stay with us.
Mac Shack, New York, dedicated to providing a unique dining experience by offering classic, seasonal, and modern creative macaroni and cheese flavors. Find their locations at MacShackNewYork.com. That's MacShackNY.com.
Welcome back to Caribbean Times News. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made a historic visit to Guyana, becoming the highest-ranking sitting U.S. official to visit the country in more than 50 years. I spoke to the president about the visit, and here's what he had to say.
Well, what we were able to achieve many things. First of all, we signed a few agreements, as you're aware, that gives an opportunity to mobilize U.S. capital, the U.S. private sector can play a more active role, technology transfer, building of technical capacity, matching our local private sector with the U.S. private sector, so we can have greater collaboration and more integration, which is good for local content, which is very good for local content. We also have, we were also able to sign agreement that would help us from the security standpoint in the ship riders agreement. As you know, this is very important for us. We were able to have discussions surrounding radar coverage of our EEZ, looking at the catfish market, which is important, the catfish market that we had barriers to trade on. So those are things that we were able, excuse me, those are things we were able to look at in terms of the, just 1 second for me, please, class. In terms of, from a trade perspective, in helping our export, the catfish market is a very important market for us. And we were able to look at the catfish market with him also. So I think the trip also gave us visibility. And sometimes we underestimate the issue of visibility. Visibility allows us to showcase Guyana at the international level, and it brings that that interest, that gives us that edge in reaching to in areas and to investors that maybe were not paying attention. So these are things that the softer side, these are some of the softer side of visit and what it helps you to achieve. But more importantly, I think the visit sends a very strong signal about our commitment to democracy, our commitment to having strong bilateral partners, and of course, the U.S. is one of the important strategic partner of Guyana, and it also sends a strong signal that we are ready to collaborate and cooperate on issues of national, regional, and international interest.
Now, the opposition party did release a statement questioning the timing of the visit and what they called, quote, the ratcheting up of rhetoric against Venezuelan leaders. So, Mr. President, what do you have to say in response to those concerns that Guyana is taking sides in the Venezuela dispute with the U.S. and what that would mean from a security standpoint for Guyana going forward?
Well, I think the visit may have disappointed them in this regard, because the Venezuela issue is an issue we had already spoken about. We support democracy, we support freedom, and we support democratic transition. We associated ourselves with the Lima Statement and the OAS Statement, and we had nothing else to add. This visit had nothing to do with what is taking place in Venezuela. Had nothing to do with that. And I think at the press conference that we had, the joint press conference, this was made very clear.
And now, speaking of injustice, I mean, following the recent killing of Afro-Guyanese youth in Guyana and African Americans in the United States, we've seen both nations have seen protests for justice and heightened racial tensions. I wonder, is that something that you talked with Secretary Pompeo about?
Well, we spoke about general challenges in Guyana. I mentioned, and of course, this was a recent issue in Guyana with the killing of two Afro-Guyanese youths and one Indo-Guyanese youth. Three young people were killed in that area. And the need for us to ensure that our social systems, our social institutions, our policies and programs from a Guyana perspective reflect the national need of our people. And it's cross-cutting in nature. So we recognize here in Guyana that we have to continue to build a society in which there must be equality of access, in which democracy must be protected, in which people must be involved in the development process. But what we have to address also is false narrative and propaganda.
And we will have much more from that exclusive interview with the president tomorrow. And you can also see the full interview with President Ali on our website, CaribbeanTimesNews.com. Also tomorrow, the head of the New York-based Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy, Rickford Burke, joins us with his take on Guyana's government and the recent murders.
If the government of Guyana cannot assure justice and safety and security, shut the country down.
And Rickford Burke will be here tomorrow. Now, just ahead after the break, a Caribbean Economic Forum and the latest country inviting foreign visitors to come and stay.
Let us reimagine how we rebuild stronger, fitter, healthier economies and societies at a September Caribbean Economic Forum, where we chat about adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy with a panel of international economists with Caribbean roots and our experiences. Bahamian Dr. Peter Blair, Assistant Professor at Harvard University. Vincentian Dr. Wendell Samuel of the IMF. From Guyana, Dr. Dylan Naleen, Deputy Director of Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. And Dr. Eric Strobel, Professor in Environmental and Climate Economics, University of Bern, Switzerland, and who's worked across the Caribbean. Join the conversation about rebuilding our nation's economies on Tuesday, September 22nd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Jamaica. Tune into this station or log on online.
Welcome back to Caribbean Times News. Leaders from around the Caribbean are coming together for an economic forum. Adjusting to the post-COVID-19 economy is being sponsored by the Central Bank of Barbados. According to the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the region, which depends heavily on tourism, saw a 50% decline in visitors in just the first 6 months of this year. We spoke to Julian Rogers, the managing director at the Jamaica Observer and the host of the Caribbean Economic Forum, about the challenges facing Caribbean economies as they try to rebuild during the pandemic. Julian, welcome to Caribbean Times News.
So happy to be with you. Good evening.
Now, tourism is so important to many Caribbean economies, but according to the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the region saw a 50% decline in visitors in the first 6 months of this year. So how have Caribbean economies in general been impacted by COVID-19?
Well, I think you may find in some territories that the lick, so to speak, is even deeper than that. Some of the countries have been able to open up, others certainly have not been able to do that at all. And if I take the case of Jamaica, which opened up on June 1st, there's been a small influx of visitors, thankfully, because they've created what they call a resilient corridor, where they kept most of the visitors down in the hotel belt on the north coast, so to speak. So, but a number of other territories are not so lucky, and therefore they've either got their borders closed or they have very, very serious restrictions. So the impact on tourism is far deeper than, say, the 50% that you just talked about. And the worry is that it will continue for very much longer. And the only prospect really is whether this COVID situation will change sufficiently when the winter season comes along to give us some better numbers.
Now, what do countries need to do to try to rebuild their economies in the wake of COVID-19?
Well, if we had the answer to that, you and I wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd both be on the basking in the sea of Montego Bay on the beaches, etc. And we'd be rich as ever, and we wouldn't even need to win the lottery, so to speak. So that is at the heart of the discussion that we're having on the Caribbean Economic Forum, because it is the question that bedevils the governments and even the market vendor and everybody who's got a household and some responsibility in this time of economic stress. So that the answers are not easy. The governments are trying their best. They've introduced stimulus packages, particularly for not just the vulnerable in the normal sense of things, but the vulnerable in terms of business and so on. So that billions of dollars are committed now to helping people survive this particular period. But that's not really the full answer, because no one knows how long this situation will continue and how much more of that stimulus will be required. As you've seen in the United States, the stimulus packages being discussed again and again and again, because the reality is that this is not an end in sight. As somebody said to me, COVID has no end date, expiry date. So that's the big challenge.
It is. It's a big challenge. It's a complicated and a fascinating topic. And thank you so much for joining us to talk about it. It's going to be a fascinating conversation tonight.
Well, we're very, very happy that you'll join us, and welcome aboard to the Caribbean Economic Forum and to our host, the Central Bank of Barbados.
And that was Julian Rogers, the managing director of the Jamaica Observer and the host of tonight's Caribbean Economic Forum. And that forum, Adjusting to the Post-COVID-19 Economy, brought to you by the Central Bank of Barbados, airs tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Caravision and CaribbeanTimesNews.com. And finally, in tonight's Caribbean Moments by Caribbean Journal, Aruba is joining the list of Caribbean countries offering extended stays to foreign visitors. The nation is launching a new One Happy Workation program, allowing foreign visitors to stay for up to 3 months. The program also includes special rates at participating hotels, villas, and condos. And that brings us to the conclusion of this broadcast. From all of us at Caribbean Times News, I want to thank you for joining us on this special premiere broadcast. We invite you tomorrow and every day as we bring you the headline stories impacting you and your family at home and abroad. And we promise you we're going to cut through the noise and bring you unbiased reporting so that you can be informed. We also want to thank our sponsors, and if you want to learn more about how you can help support this broadcast, visit our website, CaribbeanTimesNews.com. That does it for this edition of Caribbean Times News. I'm Alicia Davis in New York. Thanks for watching, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Good night.